Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. I'm just going to try to go ahead and get the live stream started. We are ending yet another week, or we actually just started a new week. So just want to talk a little bit about the markets, see how everyone's doing, and we'll just go from there. We'll go through some of the different charts and and see kind of just see where things are, generally speaking. So if you guys like the content, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. I'm just gonna post the video in a couple different places. So just give me a minute and then we'll go ahead and dive in. How's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully the connection works tonight, because I just actually restarted my computer for the first time in a really long time. Alright, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm just gonna touch a little bit on some of the different markets. One of the things we don't often look at on the channel, but everyone should be aware of this on TradingView. If you go to the VIX, okay, so VIX is it's basically a measure of the volatility of the market. So if you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to get familiar with it. And you can see the purpose of it, right, is to just give you an idea of how volatile the market is. And you can see, as an example, by the way, this is the S&P. You can see back in March, the volatility was extremely high. We went all the way up to around 84, which is doesn't really happen that often. The last time we were at that level, was back in 2008, and you guys know what happened in 2008. So the VIX is something you should get acquainted with. But the general idea, right, is where is Bitcoin, and what could we expect over the next few weeks? Like, what are some general expectations that we might have, kind of given everything that might be coming together. So the first thing we note, of course, is just the general idea that we could be in yet another reaccumulation phase. Okay, and this could, as we've followed it many times, it could take place over a few months. Right, this was in 84 days. This one was also approximately 84 days. If we were to extend it out 84 days, if we were to basically spend the same amount of time in it as we had previously, it would take us until January of 2021 to actually break through this level. Okay, so this is just looking at our kind of our last two theoretical, at the time, theoretical reaccumulation phases, and it turned out they were. Okay, and we've had these steps forward. And I would argue that the next step is this region right here, between 12 and 14K. And of course, Bitcoin has a way of doing things that most people don't expect. Certainly, personally speaking, I would like to see a pullback. I would like to see things cool down for a little bit. Doesn't even necessarily have to drop. But even if we just move sideways for a while, you can see the first time we tested 12K, we were up in this regime for about a month or so. So seeing something like that, I think would be quite nice to see Bitcoin just cool off for a little bit. The reason why, again, is mainly just because when it moves up too quickly, I think we all at some point during this market cycle will anticipate Bitcoin to move up really quickly. And when I say really quickly, what does that mean? At some point during this market cycle, I think we're going to have a single day where Bitcoin goes up by $10,000. And you might think that sounds crazy, but if Bitcoin reaches 100K and then it goes to 110K, that's just a 10% move in a day. And if we are in a manic speculative bubble at that point, it's really not that far fetched to imagine a 10% move in a day. In fact, this is somewhat business as usual for Bitcoin. I've shown you guys the frequency charts of 5-10% moves to the upside or the downside, and they essentially are business as usual. So you can see that this, the next accumulation phase, we've talked about this level kind of being the next level around 13.8 to 14,000, somewhere in this area. So we've talked about this as being likely could be a local top, right? This could be a local top for us. Bitcoin has a way of surprising us. I'm not gonna sit here and say it can't continue to just blast through it, but just recognize that there is a good chance that we do hold resistance here for a little while, and that's not a bad thing, right? It's just not a bad thing at all, and it almost would be expected. And the fact, the main thing that gives me pause with this idea is the fact that it seems like everyone is waiting for that. It seems like most people are calling for a retracement. And generally speaking, when most people start calling for something, it makes me think, maybe it's not true. So again, I don't really trade based on this kind of analysis, right? Like looking at what might be a local top. Of course, I just stick to the risk levels, but I'm just trying to give you an idea that if we do see this come back down, it's really not the end of the world. And in fact, the 20-week moving average, which we know is our bull market line of support, is according to Coinbase, is just over $11,000. So the 20-week moving average has now hit $11,000. You can see that it's not that far off from the prior all-time high on the 20-week moving average, and in fact, at this rate, we will probably break through that in about a week. Okay, so the 20-week moving average will probably be setting a new all-time high within approximately a week or so. So one of the things I want to talk about, though, of course, right, is it's in the title, the election. If you're not, and I'm going to be careful here, right? I don't want to get into the politics. That's not the point of it. The point is to just discuss how do markets tend to react, right? How do markets react during an election, and what can we expect going forward? Okay, so it has nothing to do with which candidate, right? We're just looking at the data, and we want to keep it that way, right? We want to keep certain affiliations out of it. Just look at the data and say, okay, well, what do the markets tend to do when there's an election? So the first thing we'll do, and this is a pretty just a pretty crude way to do it, we can just go back and look what happened in 2016. Okay, what happened in 2016 during the election? And it actually would probably be better to look at the BLX, because we can even go all the way back to 2012. Now, I know a lot of you might not even care about data back to 2012, but at least the BLX gives it to us so we can see what's going on. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to 2016. What was going on with Bitcoin in 2016 in October and November? Okay, so in October and November of 2016, really, it was business as usual. To some degree, it's like the election didn't even, wasn't even a blip on Bitcoin's radar. You can generally see that the price of Bitcoin was just trending up. From September through October into November and even December, and we had this major blow off top, which was near the prior all-time high, around $1,100 or so, and then we subsequently had a 30% drop, I believe it was, 36% drop. Okay, and this, so it went from 1189 all the way down to 751, a pretty significant drop. That if we were to see something like that this year, then it might correspond to Bitcoin going to 20K and then retracing back down to 14K or something like that. So I personally don't think that Bitcoin will make a run to 20K that quickly. But again, Bitcoin's not here necessarily to care what I think, just giving you my opinion. So on the surface of it, right, it looks like Bitcoin was generally trending upwards. However, if we zoom in a little bit we can kind of see there was a, leading up to the election. So we had, October, the first week of October was good, second week of October, third week of October, fourth week of October, all of these were good. However, then the last week of October and then the first week of November, we actually had red candles. Okay, so this was, and this was essentially right around the election. And then we had another green candle, a red candle. So you could argue that during the month of November, starting from here, because this was starting August or October 31st, and moving sideways, you can generally see that we did have some more sideways movement for a while. We had a couple red candles, a green candle, and another red candle. So it did slow down. So